Um, so my name is Neil Pearson. I'm a physiotherapist and I'm a yoga therapist and clinical associate professor at UBC. And I'm coming to you from the traditional land of the Nanoosans, Nana us people on what we now call Vancouver Island. And so the session this morning, we just wanted to take you through some gentle movement and some calm breathing. And we have Jenny and Desmond are going to help us out. I'm going to be sitting in a chair, showing you some of the movements from the chair, and Jenny's going to be doing it from laying down, and Desmond's going to be doing it from standing up. The good news is that I'll give you guidance that you probably won't even need to use the screen, but if you need to use the screen, we have these different options for you. So if you happen to have questions about this or questions about the practice, you can put them into the feed loop chat. And I guess before we start, we should actually thank the sponsors who are making this this presentation or this whole thing happen. So here you go. Here's the sponsors covering us today. Thank you to all of them. So we can just move right in. There's Jenny, awesome. There's Desmond standing back there. So as I said, well, we're just going to guide you through. So anything that I guide you towards doing that doesn't feel like it's the right thing, just pause and relax. You don't need to do things that aren't going to serve you today. So what you want to do is just start in a comfortable position. If you are standing, you can stand like Desmond is doing there, or you could like put your back against the wall if that feels better. If you're sitting in a chair, it might be better to sit in a chair where your back's a little bit away from the back of the chair. And if you're laying down, just get the support that you need for your neck and your legs. And anytime you want to shift around, please go ahead and do it. You don't need to stay still with all this. So start by making your breath longer. So as you breathe in and as you breathe out, think longer. Breathe in a bit longer on the inhale and breathe in a bit longer on the exhale. Now you don't need to keep on breathing longer and longer and longer. Just make it a little bit longer than it was a few breaths ago. And then see if you can make your breath smoother as well. So you can smooth out the feeling of the air coming in and out. You can smooth out the sound of your breath. You can smooth out the feeling of your body moving as you breathe in and breathe out. So as you breathe in and as you breathe out, you're thinking longer and smoother. And if this feels good, just stick with it. If you think you can be okay with adding a third word, add in the word softer. So you think longer, smoother, softer. Softer is about less effort. Softer is about noticing if your breath is gripping in any way or your mind is gripping onto anything in any way. Just try to find a bit of softness in that. So as you breathe in, you're thinking longer, smoother, softer. And as you breathe out, you're thinking longer, smoother, softer. Now in a moment, we're going to start doing some different movements. And if you can continue with the longer, smoother, softer breath, go ahead and do that. Or if there's another breathing technique that you want to use, you can go ahead and do that. What I'd like you to do is to take your attention to your toes. And to start with, I'd like you to imagine lifting your toes up and sort of spreading them, and imagine curling your toes. So go back and forth, imagine extending and lifting your toes, imagine curling your toes. Now what I want you to do is switch from imagining it to doing it. So whatever position you're in, extend your toes, sort of extending them out away from each other, and then curl your toes under. And maybe you want to do this with your breath, so that as you breathe in, you extend them, and as you breathe out, you curl them. And even a simple movement like this, if it doesn't feel like it's serving you, you can come back to imagining the movement rather than doing the movement. Now, when you finish your next exhale, just let your toes relax for a moment. And just pause and notice any after effects in your toes or your feet from doing that movement. Then imagine pointing your toes down, your feet down, and imagine pulling your ankles and toes up. So you're imagining this, like your feet are going down. You're imagining pulling your toes and feet up. So when you imagine this, you can imagine seeing the movements, or you can imagine feeling the movement. And then switch from imagining to doing. Point your toes down. Well, if you're standing, you can see you'd be going up on your toes like Desmond's doing. And then draw your toes and your feet up. And if you're standing, you may need to watch your balance there as you pull them up so you don't tip around. Which, whatever your position you're in, just feel that gentle movement of pointing your toes, extending them down, and then pulling your ankle and foot up. If you notice when you do this, you just stop breathing and come back to that longer, smoother, softer breath. And when you finish your next exhale, just let your ankles rest for a moment. Don't rush if you're still working your way there. And as you pause, just notice the after effect again. This time noticing if anything's changed around your toes or feet or ankles. And then take your attention up to your knees. And we're going to start the imagery with your right knee. So I want you to imagine extending your right knee and then bending your right knee. So if you're standing, when you bend it, you could be bringing that right foot up towards your hip. And when you extend it, you're imagining reaching it out the other way. If you're seated in a chair, you could hold onto the back of your thigh and extend your leg, or imagine extending your leg out, and imagine bending your knee in. And then now move from the imagining to doing. Feel the sensation as you actually extend your leg and then bend your knee in. And maybe you want to sync that up with your breath a bit. As you can see, Desmond's doing a bit of a squat to bend his knee and then to straighten it out. Whatever movement you're doing, make sure it feels safe. If you run into any edge, just go to the edge and then that's far enough. After you come back to a neutral spot next time, move into the other side. Imagine the other side. So if you're standing or seated or laying down, imagining extending the left knee, imagining bending the left knee. And then move from the imagining to the doing. When you're ready, extend that left knee out and then let the left knee bend. So again, if you're seated in a chair, you could hold onto the back of your thigh and extend the leg out and then bend it back in again. If you're standing, you can do a partial squat movement as Desmond is doing. Only going so far as it feels like it's okay, like it's safe. Great. When you come back to a neutral spot next time, just pause there again. And just rest in that after effect. Notice if there's any remaining effects in your toes or foot or ankle or all the way up to your calf, to your knee. Imagine that you're rocking the top of your pelvis back and that you're rocking the top of your pelvis forward. So if you're laying down, you're imagining that your back is flattening down towards the floor. If you're standing or seated, you're imagining that you're flattening or rounding your lower back a bit. And then you're imagining the opposite movement with your back going into a bit of an arch. So imagining that little rock of your pelvis back and forth. Now you can make it a bigger movement if you want to, or you can make it a smaller movement if you want to, whichever serves you best. So now move from that image to the doing. And maybe sync it up with your breath so that when you breathe out, you're getting some flatness to your low back or tilting your top of your pelvis back. And when you breathe in, you're feeling yourself coming into a little bit of a back bend, restoring that normal arch in your low back. Just moving back and forth from one side to the other. Great. Remember, if you find yourself holding your breath, try to keep your breath moving again. You might want to come back to that longer, smoother, softer breath. And after your next exhale, just release that for a moment. Pause again in the after effect. And of course, if there's any other movement that you want to do or any other stretch you want to do in the midst of this, go ahead and do it. Because sometimes you're doing stuff and it's like your body says, hey, maybe I should do that stretch too. Great. So the next thing we're going to imagine is a twist. And so if you're laying down, you're going to be imagining that your knees are rolling down to, we'll start with getting you to imagine your knees rolling down towards the right side. And if you're standing or seated, you're going to imagine that you're turning your ribs and your shoulders towards the right side. Right? So sometimes it helps to sort of do the movement first so you can feel, hey, okay, that's the thing I'm going to imagine. So when you can, come on back to the center and start with the imagery. Start with imagining, seeing yourself or feeling your knees feeling down, your knees going to the right side. Or if you're standing or seated, imagine moving your ribs and your shoulders and your head as if you were going to look around to the right side. And if you want to, you can imagine going there and staying for a few breaths, or you can imagine doing the movements and coming out again. And then when you're ready, let's move from the imagining of it to the doing. So when you feel ready, let your knees roll down to the right side, or let your rib cage and your shoulders and your neck come around to the right side, however far feels good. And if you want to stay in that place and continue with your breath, do that. So if you want to release as you exhale and come back to the center, go ahead and do that. If you've run into any tension, discomfort, or pain, just make sure you go just to that edge, that place where you know you'll be okay later. And remember, you don't need to wait for me to stop. If you feel like it's time to stop, go ahead. Do what serves you best. And then when you come on back to the center next time, just pause for a moment and imagine now going the opposite direction. So imagine your knees rolling down to the other side, or imagine moving your ribs and your shoulders and neck to the other side. Remember, you can imagine what it looks like, and you can imagine what it feels like. And then when you're ready, move from the image to the doing. It might be totally different this side, so check it out as you go. Come to a twist that feels like a good amount of twist. A place where you know you can breathe calmly, where your muscles are not gripping. Great. Then as you exhale next time, once you release that and come on back to the center and pause for a moment again. And once again, rest in that after effect and notice what's happening from your toes through your feet, through your ankles and lower legs and knees and thighs and hips and lower back. Now I'm going to hold my hands up here and just show you, because the next movement is going to be just spreading your fingers out wide and then curling your fingers down. But you can just let your hands rest wherever they want, wherever they are if you want to. And start with the imagining again. Imagine spreading your fingers wide. Imagine gently curling your fingers and thumbs in towards your palms. And then when you're ready, move from the image to the doing. Spread your fingers wide, maybe on the inhale, and curl your fingers in on the exhale. Or if you're doing the opposite way, that's fine. See if you can sync up the movement. So the whole time you breathe in, you move your fingers one way, and the whole time you breathe out, you move your fingers the other way. And then when you finish your next exhale, just let your hands rest. Once again, pausing in that after effect. Noticing from your toes through your feet, through your ankles, to your knees and hips and low back, and even your hands. Then switch your attention to your forearms and your wrists. And the movement you're going to imagine is turning your palms up and rolling your palms down. Turning your palms up and rolling your palms down. So you can do it, you'd be doing it wherever your hands are resting. So start with the image of rolling your forearms so your palms end up facing up towards the sky. And then imagining rolling your palms down so your palms are faced the opposite direction. So once you have the movements, start with the imagining seeing it or imagining feeling it. And then move into the movement. When you're ready, roll your forearms so your palm faces the sky. Roll your forearms so your palm faces back down. And of course, if you're standing, when you first roll them, you're rolling them out. And then when you roll them the opposite way, they're rolling back in again. Great. And then when you finish your next exhale, just let them rest again. Noticing any after effect through your feet and legs and torso and fingers and wrists and forearms. Then imagine drawing your shoulders up towards your ears. Imagine pulling them back. Imagine drawing them back down and then rolling them back towards the front. So imagine you're doing this shoulder circle where you're imagining lifting your shoulders up and then back and then down and back towards the front. And then when you feel ready, go ahead and lift your shoulders up, draw them back, draw them down, roll them forward. If you notice yourself holding your breath, try to keep your breath flowing. If it feels good to do that longer, smoother, softer breath, do that. And when you finish your next exhale, just let your shoulders relax. Pause in the after effect. All the way from your feet, through your legs, through your torso, from your fingers, through your wrists, to your shoulders. Then imagine you're bringing your chin towards your chest. And imagine you're bringing your chin back up, but maybe you're just coming back to neutral or you're looking up towards the sky a little bit. If you're laying down, you're going to have to imagine lifting your head a little bit to bring your chin towards your chest. And then maybe when you go the opposite way, when you're laying down, you're imagining pushing your head back into the pillow or the floor just a bit. Keeping your breath longer, smoother, softer. Move from imagining to doing. So if you're seated or standing, and draw your chin down towards your chest. And then lift your chin either back up to the neutral spot, or it's okay if you feel like it's fine to lift your head up. You can look up towards the sky. Remember, you always want to be in a place where you feel like you can still breathe, where your body's not getting tense, where you're not feeling those protection mechanisms turning up, turning on. A place where you feel like you'll be okay later. If for any reason you start to feel like, I'm not so sure if I'll be all right later, just pause. And when you finish your next exhale, just let your neck relax again. Just rest in that after effect again. From your toes through your feet, lower legs, thighs, lower back, fingertips, hands, forearms, shoulders, and neck. Now, if you are laying down, it'd be great if you could come to a seated position or standing. But if that's not going to serve you today, we still can do this laying down. So if laying down is where you need to stay right there and we'll guide you. If you can come to seated or standing, go ahead and do that. So if you're standing, feel your feet solid on the floor. If you're seated in a chair, feel your feet on the floor and feel the length of your spine. If you're seated cross-legged like Jenny, just create that sensation that your spine is reaching tall. Take your arms straight out from your shoulders to the side. Let your shoulders release back down again. When you breathe in next time, expand your belly and ribs and chest all together. And when you breathe out, draw back in your belly, ribs, and chest all together. Now, if your shoulders start to get sore or tired, you can let them down. If you let them down, imagine them still reaching. As you breathe in, expand belly, ribs, chest together. As you breathe out, draw in belly, ribs, and chest all together. And if your arms are still out there, bring them on back down again. And let them rest just for a moment. But continue with that breath. This is called complete breath, where you're expanding belly, ribs, and chest all together on the inhale, and then drawing them back in all together on the exhale. And sometimes you can even feel the back of your torso expanding as well when you do this. It's a way to get a little bit more energy into your body. Take your arms back up again. This time, reach them up over your head if that feels like it feels good. Reach your fingertips towards the sky. Reach your wrists from your elbows and your elbows from your shoulders. But let your shoulders release down your back. They feel like they're up towards your ears, let them come on down. Now, if holding your arms up here is not feeling right, you can let them down on your exhale and then breathe them back up again, or you can keep them up there and do that complete breath. Expand your belly, ribs, chest together. Draw in your belly, ribs, and chest all together. See if you can expand the front and the sides and the back and draw in all of them. Remember, it's okay to let your arms come on down if they're starting to feel like that's enough. And then draw them back up on the inhale. And then draw them back down. If you can, one more time, take them back up there. Reach your arms long. See if you can reach, if you're standing, reach from your feet through your legs. If you're seated, reach from your pelvis through your spine and then up through your arms to your fingertips. And expand your breath. If you've got pain or tension or discomfort, don't ignore it. Find a place where you know you're safe. You'll be okay later. And when you breathe out next time, let your arms come on back down to your sides. Great. And now what I'd like everyone to do, if you can, come back to a actually laying down position again. If laying down is not going to feel relaxing to you, what I'd like you to do is to see if you can come to a seated position. And of course, if laying down and seated just aren't something you can do today, stay with the standing. We're going to move into a bit of relaxation here. A short relaxation before we end. So when you come down to a laying down position, you can see Jenny and Desmond have used some props underneath their knees and underneath their head. And you can see how they're both sort of shifting around a bit to find that just right spot. That's where you want to go. Place of most comfort. And now that you're laying down, if you're still regulating your breath, if you're still doing longer, smoother, softer, or that complete breath, let those go. Just let your breath do what it's going to do. And create a sensation that your body is releasing down a bit towards the floor. Like your legs are getting a bit heavier, and like your arms are getting a bit heavier. Like your torso is even getting a bit heavier. If there's still any effort to your breath, see if you can find some more ease in your breath. Let yourself rest now. Rest your mind, rest your body, rest your breath. And just let your mind follow these words. May I have the wisdom to slowly untie the knots restraining my recovery. May I be patient as I learn greater influence over pain. May my efforts lead me to move with more ease. May I experience that everything changes, even pain. May all beings everywhere be safe, happy, and peaceful. May my love for myself and others flow without limit. May the power of loving kindness support me and support my family. May I be free of anger, fear, and regrets. May I live and love with ease. Start to take bigger breaths again now. So draw in a bit more air, feel a little bit more depth to your inhale, and start to reactivate your body as well. Maybe move your toes and fingers and ankles and wrists. If it would feel good to have a stretch, go ahead and do that. If it would feel good to draw your knees in towards your chest and give yourself sort of a hug kind of thing, go ahead and do that. And so if it would feel good to just stay right where you are here for a few more minutes, go ahead and do that. I can let you know that we're at around 11:44, 11:45. So if you need to get up and move, go ahead and do it. If you want to just stay, that's great.